welcome to the GEI Summer Series, and I'm extremely happy today to be able to welcome Artur Mendes from Boom Festival.
Hello, my name is Artur. I was born in Lisbon in '77, and I've been involved with the music industry in Portugal since the mid-90s. Although my school background is in social psychology, but I always try to do the fusion between social work and music and events and festivals. So this is my, let's say, life purpose. And Boom matches in this life purpose. That is not only mine, but it's shared with a lot of people from our team. And the festival started in '97 as a Goa trance psychedelic festival, but there was always this sense of independence, sense of connection with nature and with a huge international crowd. So the festival has been developing, 3,500 people in '97, and now we are around 40,000, and we have a limited capacity event so that we don't go too crazy in terms of side effects in the nature and in terms of the mental scape of the festival. For us, it's okay number. And the festival these days is a multidisciplinary festival with a strong emphasis on arts, culture, sustainability, and always emphasizing that the act of celebrating with other peers and humans should be done with content, should be done with projects that can be support a change-making culture. And especially, we believe that the festival Boom should support the human development for a better perspective of us humans in the planet.
Amazing. How do you go about that? I mean, I've been really fortunate to be at Boom, I think maybe 7 times, and it's every 2 years, so always eagerly waiting for the next one. But it really does manage to do that. It really enhances the sense of human connections and connection with nature as well. How do you manage to bring that out through the festival? What steps do you take as a team?
There are 2 levels here. Surely one organizational level that we try to create in every step, this sense of community, human development, using a lot of social technologies and tools for us as a team to be connected, strong, use things like culture intelligence, emotional intelligence, dragon dreaming. I mean, there is so many creative leadership. There is a lot of technologies that we try to use, always on a perspective of our crew to be cohesive and at the same time to create something with content. And then, of course, this spreads out, radiates to the festival itself. This is the seed that we water to impact the people. And then there is the other level, which is in which way we design the festival. And the design of the festival, I mean, in which way we design the areas and the flows in the nature, because the Boom is a festival that is held in the Boomland, is around 180 hectares in inland Portugal with a 3-kilometer lake forest, and is kind of a rugged landscape. So it's quite important, and when we design the festival, we take into consideration the fluxes of nature and the flows of the people. So for instance, when we see water lines, we create flows of people in the water lines, because the water lines are some of the best sculptures in the nature, for instance. So for us, it's quite important, because from the moment that we use what nature has been doing in this kind of landscape, and then we put the layer of the human behavior there, it's much easier for us to have a sense of social behaviors, individual behaviors, celebratory environments, party places, cultural places. So we always try to, depending on the area of the festival, we always try to match it with the kind of landscape that nature is giving to us. So I believe, or we believe, in a way that is a part of the good experience of the festival, is that we maximize the landscape with the flow of the festival.
Absolutely. So it's like using nature's own creations and then humans coming in being a part of that, rather than trying to shoehorn in your own structures that throw everything else out of the way.
Yes, yes, that's right. For instance, most of the artistic areas of the festival, they are all in the water shore, so they are close to the lake. But then the residential parts, they are more secluded, and we have spaces where you really go into a more foresty kind of environment, and this is the place where people reconnect with themselves. And if they want to expand, then they are more in the outdoor and in a more flat environment. So it's really beautiful to work with this kind of principles. We are very much influenced by permaculture design, and this is what we try to do as much as possible, is to merge this permaculture design, but also a lot of knowledge in terms of social behavior as well. So we try to match both, and so far we are happy with the result. Let's see in the future.
Well, I can tell you firsthand, it definitely works, because every time that I've been to Boom, I've felt most centered and get brought into natural flow that then lasts. I always call it my biannual spiritual reset button.
It's good. We aim for that as well. It's beautiful.
And so you own the Boomland now, where the festival is held, but you didn't always own it. Because I know that for a lot of event organisers, they can often think, well, we don't own the space where the event happens, so we don't have that much control or that much influence. But how were you able to realise the same kind of impacts even before you owned the land, or what obstacles were there in being able to achieve that?
So the festival had so far 3 locations. One from 97 to 2000, that was a forest, a pine forest in the south of Portugal. Then from 2002 to 2008, we were already here in the Idanha Nova, on the shores of the lake, but across the lake where we are at the moment. And now, since 2010, we are in this new location, but we only bought the land in 2006. So we were saving, and we got some crowdfunding, and we are still paying a part of a loan to the bank. We took this decision because it was really difficult for us to go one step further in terms of doing a festival that appeals to human development, and at the same time that appeals to sustainability, and that wanted to show new approaches in terms of sustainability and human gatherings and human celebrations in a natural setting. It was very difficult for us to do in places that you don't own, because you were only in a kind of showroom kind of approach, because okay, you do a toilet, but then you have to put it out. You do a stage, and then you have to put it out. And even the settlement, let's say, when we tried to do the build, all the builds, they were quite short, like short in a way, in the standard that we have these days. They are quite long for the standards that most festivals have, because they go a few weeks, but we had like 3 months before. But doing a festival like Boom, that requires a lot of detailed talent and a lot of handwork and a lot of landscaping, it was impossible to do in a land that was not ours. So for instance, these days, the land is ours, and since 2010, one simple aspect, the reforestation. Since 2010, we have been putting trees in this land. Since 2015, much more. The gardening, the water treatment systems that we have, even the compost toilets, but also the way that now doing a festival like us that is so depending on the nature patterns is really important. One thing that is observation and understanding of the patterns in this setting, let's say. And this creates a whole new level of fusion between natural patterns and design of a festival, because now we understand how this land behaves, and with the way the land behaves, it's much easier for us to design a festival based on this. And we believe we took the right step, that is owning the land. I mean, there are advantages, but on the other side, we cannot build nothing permanent. But also in regards of music stages and artistic areas, also we want to surprise every edition, so we don't want to do permanent stuff. But it allows us to do some infrastructure stuff, like everything that, like sanitation, toilets, water, all these kind of circuits, electricity, solar systems, solar stations. All of these are in place because we own the land. Otherwise, it would be totally impossible to do that. Very impossible. So yeah, hopefully most of the festival producers can have their land. But if they cannot have the land, at least they can do projects to raise awareness and hopefully have a positive impact on the surrounding communities. Because also having a land involves much higher costs in terms of production, because you need to have a land, and you need to pay the land, and you need to have people to keep the land, and you need to have a lot of infrastructure in place. So there are, depending on the kind of festival people want to do, it can be an advantage or it can be a curse as well.
Essentially, you are building, apart from without permanent structures, a city infrastructure based upon following nature's patterns and lead in a way. Mm-hmm. So is that something that you're able to then translate into cities and to work with municipalities, for example?
I think it's for sure, because festivals are kind of a microcosm or a micro representation of what society can be. And even in terms of urban design, the way that many festivals are being designed all over the world, they can really teach many urban designers and even industrial designers and others the importance of the user and the way the user behaves in open air settings or even in indoor settings. But if cities and festival promoters can work together more often, I think most cities would benefit a lot in terms of, for instance, urban requalification. If there is a place that is not being used so much by the city, for sure a festival can support a lot in terms of what can a new design can be done to create more potential for space to be used by humans, small scale or large scale, but in a way that is comfortable for the user, the human, but at the same time that give some program or culture attraction, but some kind of green technologies as well. So imagine if you have a regenerative garden or a permaculture garden, or depending on what kind of agriculture we want to do, you can do gardening for a big park that can stay in the festival, and the sanitation can go into the garden. Then you are creating a regenerative space in an urban environment from a festival input. So it's a lot of potential that can be done. And this would be a win-win situation for many promoters and cities alike.
Absolutely.
There is a huge regenerative potential from festivals and human gatherings that should be used, especially at this time that we are living, for the benefit of society as a whole.
I mean, what do you think it is about festivals, what festivals bring, that makes it a worthwhile endeavor to keep pursuing and to keep unfolding? And it does take a lot of energy in so many ways from individuals and everything. How does it then give back, and what is the kind of importance of it, I guess?
We can look at different layers for sure. One layer is on the individual level. I think festivals can create a sense of happiness in one way. It can create a sense of escapism in another way, but it can also give spiritual fulfillment, and also at the same time it can give tools to the people on a totally different educational setting, a setting that is more open and less institutionalized at the regular setting. So on the individual level, festivals can really achieve a lot of human development goals, I'd say, or at least a good time for people to switch off from daily routine. In terms of social life, surely festivals can build social identities in a way that in many contexts are not achieved, especially at this time, because we are not living like 20 to 30 years ago where there was these urban tribes and people would like one kind of music and they would have the code of that kind of music, wearing like that, dressing up like that. These days, festivals can really create a social identity as part of a larger culture where people gather together to find themselves connected, united, enjoying the same kind of music, enjoying the same kind of setting, and also to expand the liaisons, the real liaisons, human connections between people. Because there is this guy, Douglas Rushkoff, that says that being connected is the new way of being alone. Because there is a lot of connections that people are doing online, but it also shows that there is a certain kind of loneliness because people are into their own life. And festivals can really show how important it is to have social connection and have fun in a social setting. I also believe, and this is also part of our role, that festivals can really pioneer a lot of new approaches in terms of sustainability and new approaches in terms of social change. The music industry per se has been really leading the way for many, many years, like the Live Aid, and in the 60s, in the 50s, there was always gatherings like the Black Exploitation and the hip hop movement, a lot of the disco scene. There was a lot of social change related with the music styles and the music scene. And on that level, festivals can really create new causes to support social change in the world in a way that not many industries are doing. The sports industries is not doing, the conventional industries are not doing so much, and music and the music industry and festival culture can really impact people on that level. And in terms of sustainability, because it's like a microcosm where people come from many different places, where people have a large impact, where people are very open, then we can test a lot of technologies that can be then going into the regular society, because they were having a proper living lab setting where you test some technologies and then you can expand, because you could see the way the people were using that, and from that you can create knowledge, and with the knowledge you can then readjust that to put on a larger scale. So we should really look at festivals as a whole, not only on a commercial level, but we should really look at as living labs on a broader sense.
So this next edition is going to be a theme of the Anthropocene. Can you tell us a bit about how that came about and what it means, and how you decide your themes each year for Boom?
The process is we finish edition, we do the post-production, and then we enter a sensing phase for normally 3 months. And we travel, we read, but mostly we sense a lot. We sense a lot, and always the theme has to be something related with awareness of change of behavior, to connectedness with nature, and also, of course, we are a psychedelic festival that appeals to an expansion of the limits or think outside the box. We found that the Anthropocene theme was quite an important one, because it was related and it was reflected what is essential way that we are relating with the earth, we humans, from today into the future, and connected also with our past as human species. So the Anthropocene, that is, let's say, this geological age that some people call it already Anthropocene, but some other people not, but still is something that is related with the human presence on Earth, and in which way humans have been shaping the development of the planet based on their presence and on their activities. Normally, we do themes that can appeal to the artists, but also that can give nice conceptual frameworks for us to work on in the program of the festival. And it's quite interesting, because every theme that we choose, there are some happenings in the outside world that reinforce more the theme. And this one has been super strong, the impact, because actually, like, what we are witnessing is surely an Anthropocene moment of epic proportions. Whatever reason we want to justify what is happening, but this is affecting the Anthropos as a whole everywhere. Like the humans have been affecting the planet as a whole, this virus is affecting the human species in the same way. So we are glad that our team is really on target. We had, and we will have next edition, or for the Anthropocene edition, a lot of amazing panelists and thinkers and people talking about this. We also designed the music program based on some Anthropocene ideas and human cultures. So there is a whole narrative that we will imply related with the Anthropocene. And most importantly is we want people to reflect about this, why we do a team. It's a new lens that we provide, so that we look to the world with the new lands every 2 years. So we want to contribute to the way we deal with the earth with different lenses, and we believe the Anthropocene is quite a strong team.
Absolutely, especially in the current circumstances.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of examples coming from Boom for sustainable festivals, and going to that point about how you can be a living lab and influence then larger infrastructure. One of the things that I've always loved about some of Boom's initiatives is the water system that was created. Can you tell us a bit about that and the interest that it got from the outside when it was developed?
In Portugal, we have a water problem, water scarcity here. It happens quite often. This year now has been raining in the last months, but it's always a problem, and the trend is to get worse. So the main principle was, in which way can we treat the water and maintain the water after the use of the public in different systems, but then giving back to the land, where it would create more water and then would create another cycle of life, let's say. So this is the main principle, was that we have water coming from the public grid, because we don't even, I mean, it's the only way that we can do this for health and safety reasons. So it comes from the public grid, and then it goes to the water system, goes to the restaurants and the showers, because the toilets, they are dry compost toilets and they don't use any water. So it's another kind of circuit. And this water, the first water treatment plant that we used was designed for 20,000 people. And it was pretty much filtering all the water. And then we had different outputs that could be used for irrigation, for some orchards that we have. So it was used after 1 year of setting in the water treatment station. We put several plants monitored by several specialists in water treatment. Before we release the water, we always take analysis in the local university here in Castelo Branco and in other institutions. And then if things go well, they go to a natural setting for irrigation. But in the last editions, the festival grew. So now we are building a bigger facility with a new system, new treatment systems as well. And this is a construction that is now on standby. But what we will have in the future is, we have this system that we have here, that, for instance, we have people living in the land, and it's a system that is treating all the water that is being used here. And we have this system, and we're gonna have a bigger one to hold all the capacity of the festival. If some of the water is a bit more dirty, let's say with more fats or with the things that are a bit more industrial, what we do is we send to a facility close by, because we don't want to risk water that can be with more chemicals, or, for instance, things from the kitchens, or too much fats. We don't want to risk going into the biological cycles, because this can have an effect on the biological treatment. So we create another line of treatment as well. So it's quite complex, but at the same time, we believe it's a way for us to hold the positive sides of having a large human gathering that have inputs, and then this is a positive output that we'll say here in the water. And the amount of reforestation, the amount of water that we use after treatment has been really immense, and it has helped us to regenerate this line.
Excellent. So you're not taking the value essentially out of the site or out of the environment, but you're keeping the value in and being able to enhance the environment by using it.
Yeah, this is the main thing, is try to close as much cycles as possible. These days are a lot into circular economy, etc., which is great if we can do this step industrially. But our example is a bit different, because actually we own the land. So everything has to be done taking into consideration that the festival happens during a week. We have around, let's say, 4 or 5 months of peak production, where we have a lot of people coming from different parts of the world, but then the land is also have a life before and after the festival. So everything has to be done on a 360 approach, where the festival is just a peak of occupation and a peak of resources that should not be wasted, and they should be maintained in the land as much as possible.
So it's actually a long-term view instead of a short-term view.
Yeah, and I think what we try to do in terms of sustainability is not only looking at the environmental part, but the social part. They are equally important. But to go into the sustainable approach has to be a long-term commitment. It should not be done only taking into consideration, okay, let's use reuse cups. This is one kind of thing that has a positive impact, but it should be regarded on a much wider scale. And on a long-term perspective always, because nature has a long-term cycle. It's not a short-term cycle.
Indeed. And let's hope that we're here for the long term.
Yes.
If we start stepping correctly.
Exactly.
So we've done the Greener Festival assessments at Boom for quite a while now, I think 10 years maybe, and Boom have always got outstanding every time. Well done.
Thank you. It's quite funny because when we start to do these kind of projects, we started with the perspective of let's take the relationship with nature into a new level, and also let's create systems that can support festivals, because there was no industry in place for instance, water treatment, toilets, etc. And we wanted to have a whole different experience, to give a whole different experience, more conscious to the people that come to the festival. And what the Greener Festival brought to us was an amazing way for us to be monitored with people that are not corporate people. They are people like us. They are festival people. They are people that use sustainability as a positive weapon, not as a corporate weapon to create reports that go into corporate reports like that sometimes don't create strategies. So it's really nice because it's a great way for us to improve, because also we have people that we respect and that they have a lot of knowledge, and we know that they also come from festival culture. So it's like a very mutual, reciprocal relationship that we are, I don't call it the word evaluated, but we are monitored by people that we respect. And every time you guys give some insights and feedbacks for us, we try as much as possible to implement on the other way. And we also feel that we provide some nice knowledge to the Greener Festival community. So I think it's a beautiful way to create a sustainable culture in festivals, because we come from the same place. We are festival people. And in sustainability, not always you see that in sectors. You go to the corporate world or to other areas of activity, and sustainability is done for zeros, ones, and reports, and very boring conversation, graphics and tables. But then the real effective experiential approach is not there, because it's done by people in the office that have no clue about what they do. And the Greener Festival has that. Is an experiential project born from festival people, super skillful, that supports festivals to make their sustainable projects better. And we are very grateful to work with you guys on that. And we are extremely grateful to get the outstanding award since 2008. And we want to keep honoring that as much as possible as well.
Oh, thank you so much for those lovely words. And we're definitely grateful to you as well for everything that you do bring to the whole sustainable events community, actually, because we've certainly taken from all of the different festivals that we go to, we always find really great ideas that can then be shared amongst the community. And there's always a lot of great ideas and inspiration that's coming out of Boom. So, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Claire. It's a big pleasure.
What does it take to maintain the outstanding sustainable status as a festival?
One of the main obstacles that we have is due to the fact that we are in this land and we should not do things permanently. We know that, for instance, in terms of bioconstruction, we could do much more, but we don't want to do because we are in a natural setting and we don't want to start to just build things. One of the things that for us is very important is to keep investing a lot in sustainability. One part belongs to us. It's a strategic commitment that we take. We prefer to spend in sustainability than to have big headliners and a lot. It's our choices as have been going into sustainability, of course, into music and arts as well. But we have some limits in terms of fees that we are paying, because also we want to support sustainable projects as much as possible. Another, let's say, challenge that we face, but all the festivals should face, is the human behavior that it is a variable that nobody really can control, which is amazing, because otherwise we'd be predictable beings. But the fact that the majority of the people comes from urban settings all over the world, each world has its own sustainable behavior culture. And when everyone converges to Boom, to a natural setting, to Portugal that is far, even the ones that come overland, but when people arrive here, there are certain kind of behaviors that we always have to be on top of that. We are super fortunate that the Boom community and the Boomers are amazing people in terms of awareness of the environment, in terms of consciousness, in terms of openness to go into change behaviors in case they don't have. There is a certain kind of self-regulatory spirit on the sustainable side here. But of course, when we are talking about 40,000 people, this is surely a challenge that we need to take into account, because not everyone is similar and everyone comes from different culture. So this is something that we try as much as possible to educate, but especially to show initiatives on site that can arise a sense of self-consciousness and the self of coherency between what we communicate and what people see. Because if people see the congruency and the what we communicate and what they see live, if as a proper factfulness approach, then we believe we can really affect positively people. And another thing that I would say that also is challenging for us to go a bit more ahead is the country where we live. The festivals, they are very dependent on the culture and the country and the society where they live. Depending on what kind of industries you have in your country, the more forward you can push the envelope. For instance, we have a big entertainment scene in Portugal, but the cultural sector is huge. There is a lot of tourism, a lot of things, but it's the most of the industries, you don't have side industries to support the cultural sector and the festival sector. Sometimes if you want to hire things, you need to go to the conventional construction companies, and sometimes just, for instance, generators or or containers. Not everyone has the sensitiveness to work for festivals, which lead us to places where sometimes we need to import from outside knowledge and know-how and also some materials, because in Portugal we cannot go so far because the whole society is adjusted to another kind of activities, which is totally normal. And we believe in terms of sustainability, sometimes we don't get as much support in terms of industry as we should have. One last example, for several years we were trying to talk with all the water companies to stop using plastic, and they have this different kind of potato-based thing that is biodegradable, etc. And they never did, and still up to today they didn't change, not even to put canned water in the country. So we have canned water coming from Spain this edition, and of course we have free water on the site, but some people prefer to have canned water because it's cold, etc. And the water from the grid, some people don't like it because it tastes a bit chlorine, because we need to do it for health and safety reasons. So yeah, this is something that we believe if the society here and the industries here would be more pointing the direction of experimenting with sustainability, we as festival would benefit much more. So we do our way, which is okay, but we lack a bit the industry support on that level.
So it's that kind of macro environment that you're operating in doesn't always facilitate what you're trying to achieve within the festival necessarily.
Yes. Yeah, it's very complicated, and also we are in this case we are in 3 hours from Lisbon and we are 4 hours from Madrid, but we are in the Iberian Peninsula, we are really remote. It's totally different than if you are in the middle of England, where you have all the industries there, or in France, or in Holland, Germany. The countries have their logistical circuits quite in shape and really strong in that geographical places. Here it's a bit different, which is great because it teases us to make things on a do-it-yourself approach, which we don't complain. I mean, it's not a complaining. It's just we believe that if there would be a different kind of organizational culture that would support sustainability on a more let's say forward-thinking perspective, like we have, for instance, with the solar in Portugal and with the wind technologies, then we could go a bit more forward.
Can you see there being a network that will encourage that kind of change, or the broader appetite for sustainability? I mean, with the public opinion was starting to become more aware in relation to our impact on the environment. Government policy in many countries was starting to go in that direction. Has it started to nudge that way in Portugal?
In Portugal, a lot of the sustainability conversation and narrative has been in terms of energy. And we have around 40 to 45% of the energy of the country is clean. It's a mix of clean, but is renewable energy. And in that regard, there is a positive environment for to do projects based on the energy. But for instance, there is not a proper water strategy. And we have a lake, but there are south of our region, intensive olive farming, almond farming. There is not a water strategy, for instance, in places with large tourism communities, for instance, in the Algarve, where they still do golf courses in a place and avocado plantations in a place that should be really resilient in terms of water usage, because it is scarce of water. And due to the fact that we always have this do-it-yourself approach, we have been pioneering new technologies and new approaches in terms of gatherings and festivals, multidisciplinary environmental techniques and technologies and social technologies. And what we are having at the moment is an interest coming from, for instance, the public sector. We have a city of Cascais that we are working with them to turn their events more sustainable. We have some universities that are reaching out to us to turn their events more sustainable. So surely we see interest from people from the cultural sector and the festival scene and other projects contacting us for us to share what kind of knowledge we have and what kind of technologies we have with them. In terms of partnerships, normally we try to be as much independent as possible because our festival is no sponsored, we have no logos at the festival. And these leave us much more autonomy in terms of our choices. But of course, in terms of some of the partnerships that could be done, we don't do that because we try to maintain some autonomy. On this regard, we believe that there is some room to do some partnerships with other organizations so that we can do more projects in our festival, presenting some technologies. But until now, what we do mostly is to invite for some areas of the festival and some projects, is to invite some organizations from the social sector for them to present their works at the festival. And then also we have this Boom Karuna project, which is a project that we put some money that comes for some of the revenues we put into this project, and this project supports some NGOs and associations in the surrounding community. And last year we went also to Africa, to São Tomé and Príncipe Island, to support an association there called Missão de Mix, showing that because they are two islands in the ocean, they have a lot of plastic, and we took some machines to turn plastic and to do some daily objects. So yeah, I would say that the partnerships we do are under our control. But I don't see we partnering a lot with the sustainable organizations in the future, because some of them, they have a corporate approach, and we want to be independent as much as possible.
And how is it that you've been able to sustain the festival without sponsorship? Because a lot of models that events have is very much dependent on the sponsorship side. And you also at Boom have a very reasonable priced ticket and even a social pricing in some respects, don't you? So can you tell us a bit about that model and how that works?
In terms of pricing, the festival has the regular price. We have the friendly price, which is friendly / social price, which is for countries with some difficulties in terms of economics compared with the first world countries with stronger economies. And we go to indexes of the World Economic Forum, in many indexes that we see in terms of economic indicators. And we also have the guest country, which is a country that we always select for people. We have 500 tickets that we give for a specific country. This edition was Argentina. The festival is funded by tickets, is funded by the sales of some space for renting the shops, the stalls. Per square meter, we rent a fee. And then also we have the bars that we generate some revenue, and we have the restaurants where also we rent to them some square meters, and then they rent per square meter. And this is a kind of economic model that we have to maintain the festival. But it's not only the festival. What we generate at the festival is to maintain the organizations and the non-profit organization that we also have, to maintain everyone working. And last edition, between editions, we had 30 people working the whole year. When the whole COVID started, we had 104 people working on our team, and it was growing. And it's very complicated for us to maintain the sustainability, financial sustainability of the festival, because the festival is every 2 years. We have a lot of other projects that we do in between. There was, for instance, the Bean Gathering. We also do some renting and some consultancy in terms of sustainability, so that we can maintain the festival afloat and maintain the economic basis of our festival without the need of sponsorships and without the need of try to get bank loans. Mm-hmm. We try as much as possible to be independent on that level. It's very complicated because also Portugal is not a huge country and is not a strong economy country, so the access to funds and to resources is limited. But mostly what we really value is the trust of the boomers and our community of people, that without their trust on us, it would be totally impossible to do a festival that has no sponsors and that is totally independent. They are the ones that trust on us with their tickets, with their funding of the systems that we have here, to maintain the festival as it is today, and totally independent, without the need of external support and external funding. And also the fact that we sell the tickets without any lineup announcements really show how strong this community is and how trustful they are on us. And this is, for us, is really something that we are always very humble and honored to have such a community working with us, and we work for them. And we really want to go every edition doing better editions every time, because they are the ones that support this project and make it alive.
If only governments felt the same way about their citizens, we'd be sorted.
Would be nice. Would be nice.
And so we touched upon, obviously, the pandemic and COVID-19. You've at the moment postponed the biannual edition to next year. So what was the process in decision making for that, if you even had a choice, obviously?
Mm-hmm. We started to look at the situation more closely around the beginning of February. And from that on, we created an observation group among our team. We had a few people from our team that were only looking at the situation. One from the health and public health perspective, another one from the festival and the effects on the cultural industry globally, and another person from our observation group talking with the law and the governmental side and the lawyers, and what kind of regulations were being done to manage the whole situation. So we were meeting very often, several times a week. And our position was always, we were not going into panic, but we were not also underestimating. And we were dealing with facts, only facts. Then there was a time that we started to suffer from logistic issues. Some people from our crew that were from countries in Europe, they were not allowed to travel to festival, to Portugal. Then we started to receive a few emails from boomers from Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Latin America, etc., asking, hey guys, we have now, we are forbidden to travel from our country. What can we do? It's going to be boom. We need to know what's going to happen. So we started to feel from the boom community the travel restrictions to grow. So in one way, we had the observation group, another way we were monitoring the impacts, and then also we started to feel the logistic problems, side effects, and also the boomers not being able to travel. At the same time, there was a huge growth of cases, a huge development of the situations, and we took a decision that we felt it was ethics, and based on the respect that we have to the boomer community, we felt that was totally impossible to do a festival this edition. We were one of the first festivals in Europe to say it's not going to happen. It was in March that we took the decision. And what that led to us was a huge issue that we are facing now in terms of logistics and finances and everything, because the festival had funds to do one edition due to the ticket sales, but now we need to do 1.5 edition. And in the meantime, we need to maintain people, maintain a structure, maintain a team. And this has been quite challenging, but we face this on a positive way, because when dealing with an adverse strategy, we feel that there is an amazing opportunity for us to reflect and for us to reframe. And our main strategy on this moment was to deal with our crew until the end of their agreements. That was most of them until August. So we didn't want to fire anyone. Well, of course, we needed to do several adjustments, but freelancers, people that were contracted and hired by us, or people that were self-employed, we maintained all the contracts until the end of August. Wow. With few adjustments, so that we honor the fact that Boom is more than a festival, is a community, and is a family of workers and a family of people. With all the diversity, with all the differences between people, but we as an organization, we wanted to honor that commitment. And so this has been, let's say, the way we have been dealing with the COVID. A lot of safety and health measures that we put in the Boomland. People were working from home, people were not here in the land working. But we look at it as a positive gift from the planet, and hopefully we hope that humans will take the best out of this experience. In all the tragedy that this involves, because there is a lot of tragedy, there is a lot of suffering, there are also positive points on it. And this is what we are reflecting upon, and this is what we are digesting and processing, so that next edition is going to be even more amazing. This is, surely we have this on our hearts, that we can make it even better than what we were already doing for this edition.
So is there a way that you're able to use that kind of time and energy amongst the crew as well to work on new projects or developments, or how are you kind of spending that time?
We have two main situations. One situation is that we kept doing some works at the land, especially these infrastructural works, for instance, new showers, new toilets, these kind of systems, and some of these new as I told you, new water treatment station. We will do some works. We will also do some works in the land based on the temporary architecture. So we are doing already some kits for next edition. And then we have the other side, which is the rest of our team, the executive producers, the builders, the artists, etc. What we are asking them is for them to enjoy the time to reflect about life and about themselves and to honor their families. This is what we told them. Guys, stay at home, nurture your family and reflect. And then this is a moment that calls for reflection, that calls for us to stay more informed than ever. And we will all be together, not sure if presentially, but what we will do is, and we're going to work again July and August, processing the past, saying farewell to the situation and envisioning new scenarios, using these technologies, social technologies that I was mentioning at the beginning. So this is what we did, a moment for reflection and then a moment for envisioning. Like,
I love that you're incorporating that as well. I mean, I remember one of the newsletters that came from Boom a few years ago, and it was about the Cycling to Boom initiative. And it was saying that, oh, why not cycle to Boom from your country? And it said, if you don't have time, maybe you should reflect on what you're doing for a living and whether you need to carry on doing that. Perhaps change what you're doing altogether. I like radical ideas that I love. But I mean, I felt exactly the same here at Greener Festival when the pandemic first hit, or when the lockdown really unfolded. It felt like such a an important time to take, to step back, to just breathe, take it in and absorb, and like you say, to reflect rather than trying to keep on running. It felt like prior to the pandemic, we were all on this like really fast machine that just would not stop, and there was no way to get off it, even if it was careering in the wrong direction. And then suddenly that machine stops. Everyone's like, oh, some people are still like trying to push it down the road, and like it's just getting off and going, wait a minute, do we need to change direction? Are we in the right vehicle?
Yes, right.
So it's great that you've been able to do that. And then how are you staying connected with the broader community during this time? Because the boomers are in love with Boom.
So what we surely social media in this time has been important. We also took some time to reflect. Surely we keep our pace of putting content out, and we went into two sides. One side, we wanted to have the celebratory side of the festival still strong. So between friends from the psychedelic community, we created this Unite, which is a streaming project that we, between artists, labels, some agencies, even a festival in the UK, hey guys, let's do something nice for the people, let's share some love, let's bring amazing artists and amazing concepts so that at least the people in a year where there is no festivals and we are quite lonely, we can support some funny moments and dancing moments and celebratory moments, while at the same time give an opportunity for the artists to keep the contact with their public. So this was something that we did with some partners. It's a collaborative project. And then we also started Boom Toolkit COVID-19 series, which we are inviting several change makers, thinkers, doers, people with an active role in their own communities, but people that have a Boom experience, at least, to reflect about this situation, and in each way can we envision positive scenarios and reflect positively about what we are facing, because we lack tools to deal with this circumstance, because this is a lot of unknowns, but we also have a lot of knowledge, we as humans, and what we want to show is to create this bridge between some of the know-how and the knowledge that has been around the Boom community, and to bring it back to the boomers in this period. We will carry on with this COVID-19 series. We're gonna even reinforce it much more in the coming weeks. So we have a weekly release of an interview or a presentation with a thinker, and we will carry on doing this surely during this summer, and maybe later in the year. And in the meantime, we are also reflecting, and we have this communication and strategy that when we communicate, we like to have thoughtful communication, that we position ourselves with some sort of positive message as well. And this is what we are now gathering together with a brand new project that it's called the Boom Bazaar, because one of the things that we saw with the pandemic was the supply chains and the small producers, the small artisans, the small artists having no way to deal with people and to contact with people, and all these huge supply chains. When some of the part of the supply chains go down, we suffer a lot, and we really go down with that. So we want to promote the Boom Bazaar, that is basically a platform where the public and the small producers can contact with each other. And with that, we aim to challenge this mainstream commercial system that tells people to buy things without any kind of awareness and responsibility, bad materials, that many times they support child labor, or at least very underpaid labor. And we want to create this platform where people can trade and support an alternative economy, because this is also one of the good opportunities that we can have at this time, is that grow your own food, support the local food production, and support the local producers. I think more than ever, people are aware of the need that each one of us has a role to support it. And we want to support this. It's an open project. Everybody can register. An artist and an artist, a producer of whatever, it can register, and then the Boomer community can contact directly with them.
And so for those different initiatives that you have going on at the moment, or communications, how can people find those? Like where should they head to?
To our social media and to our website, Boom Festival Official, on our social media channels. We have weekly updates at least 2-3 times a week. And also we like to emphasize that the best and most direct way to talk with us is to subscribe the newsletter. Because also social media is a great tool for people to be connected and to interact with people, but at the same time we all know how algorithms and corporate communication companies can really not support the communication between the people and the organization, especially organizations like ours that don't pay advertising, and we are all based on organic growth. And sometimes the algorithm doesn't allow us to reach the people that are part of the Boomer community. So the newsletter is always the best way to get our information.
What are some of the challenges for sustainability that you think the pandemic could be bringing that we need to tackle?
We risk going backwards, for instance, in terms of the whole plastic disposable culture that, again, the music industry and festival culture were supporting a lot worldwide. And we were reaching this level of plastic was really not cool, and people were reflecting about how unsustainable it is to have this kind of culture. And with the pandemic, I think we're going to go backwards, because the governments and many promoters don't want to go back, don't want to risk the safety and the health of the people. So surely we can see, and I'm already seeing this in Portugal, that the disposable cups are back on track, full on. Looking at our culture setting, let's say Portugal, we also are quite, we wonder how much impact will have on the water courses, the amount of hygienization and chemical things that we are putting everywhere, and this also goes to somewhere, and it goes to the water lines and to the water systems, and we don't know how careful we are and how prepared the infrastructure are to deal with these kind of things. Especially festivals or events that are in the nature. We still wonder in which way we need to implement hygienization products that kill the virus versus the biological systems that we have in place. So surely in the coming months there is going to be more information on these, but this is something that we need to address. And at the same time, sustainability versus public health, the way that sustainable projects can support the public health per se, they are quite important for the future. We need to find ways that the human behavior and the public health measures are all part of the same sustainable projects. And this is another great way that we have to rethink the models coming from a sustainable perspective. This is, I think, the way that we can look at this situation and try to reframe the current status quo and the current operations of festivals from different principles so that we create new strategies.
I think it's been quite interesting, even prior to the pandemic at a greener festival. Certainly we were really keen to collaborate much more with the health and safety kind of side of the world, not just the live industry, to see, well, how can all of our safety and health and security measures go hand in hand with what we need to do for sustainability? Because it feels like a lot of the actions at the moment for looking after a very immediate threat are thinking, okay, well, this way, for instance, large use of disposable plastics is necessary, but it's almost very, very zoomed in and not looking at the bigger picture of, well, what's the global impact, because it's a global problem, on bringing all those materials to this point, and then the ecological impact of then disposing of it, and what is the human health implication of that whole chain, rather than just what's right in front of our faces, like literally in some cases.
Yeah, and this pandemic also shows that the really strong core of sustainability, which is we working in harmony with the planet. So this should really be a wake-up call for people to rethink the way we have our food system. It makes no sense for us to feed 7 billion people to kill 700 billion animals, and these kind of systems that really show that the more we go into the natural world, into places that we were not there before, the more virus they will come to our chain and to the human population. So on the macro perspective, the big challenge that sustainability show and this virus show is that we really need to reframe the way we look at not only our world, but also the festivals can really show that sense that we are working in festivals that have a strong sustainable core. There are some results, and these results can be shown to society, showing that society can be reframed and work with the different models of operandi. So on that level, it's evident. It happened this time and might happen in the future, because if we don't change some of our habits, like in many ways festivals are living labs for us to test new habits, test new behaviors, then we're going to have the same kind of things. And on that level, festivals can really show the positive way of being sustainable, can have a different pattern of behavior into the human population.
I think it highlights the need also for bringing all the different pillars of sustainability together to work harmoniously, so the economic, social and environmental. I mean, you touched earlier upon that at Boom you don't spend a huge part of the budget, for example, just on headliners, so that you're able to actually fund the sustainability initiatives. Do you think that's something that we might see happen throughout the broader industry following the pandemic?
I hope so. I hope we can see that, and I also hope that the whole, let's say, the dictatorship of big fees from artists and agencies and booking fees go down, because we were witnessing the same as in football. Artists getting paid ridiculous amounts of money, and then the promoters having to take all the risk, and this also affects the kind of experience that the public have. And artists are very important, super important. It's very fundamental that we support the artist's lifestyle, the artist's way of creating good music, good arts, and so on. But we cannot go into the ultra-capitalist way of the artist takes everything. The artist is a part of a big chain of cultural industries, and I hope at least that with this pandemic, we all as an industry reflect about how unbalanced some of the roles are here into play. And in the end, the people that don't benefit with a better experience is the audience, which is sad. So I hope that we can rethink the way the festival culture is working and is operating. So I'm not sure now with the whole the economical impact of this, how some promoters will deal with that, because that might be the idea of, okay, let's keep having big lineups so that we attract people, so that we pay all the debts and we pay everything. But I don't think this is sustainable at all, and I don't think this is the way to go, because people are more and more into experiences, and we can have, instead of having 50 artists, people can have half of these artists and putting the artists playing longer, because people want deeper experiences, and with that support measures of public health, of cleaning, of sustainability, and with that I hope the pandemic can reshape a bit the development of the culture. I hope.
I think that a lot of that, certainly in the electronic scene, a lot of the DJs and producers have even said that they miss playing really long sets that they used to be able to do, where they could totally get in the zone, and now it's a bit of a like in-out job.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it would make everyone happy. Although I think that also there's been suggestions that, oh, perhaps if a venue is half capacity, for example, then the artist performs twice, and I think that that's been kind of raising the eyebrows of a few artists along the way as well. But, hang on a minute, I'm not sure about this.
Yes.
And so, like, I mean, it's inevitable that things are going to look very different in the future, and I think that it's a really important time, like you've said throughout, for us to really take this opportunity and this portal, as it were, to actually step into a better way of organizing ourselves and being harmonious with everything else that's around us. But what changes do you think will be permanent going forwards?
It's quite difficult to anticipate that, but surely there will be much more emphasis in terms of public health measures in festivals. This, I think, it's something that we cannot avoid. But at the same time, most festivals are prepared with that as well, because the setups of a festival, a proper organized festival, there is a huge setup of public health measures and medical staff. I'm not sure in which way this is going to affect the social behavior. The sense of we going into the private sphere of the other, touching, kissing, hugging, etc. I'm not sure how this is gonna be, because also each country, each culture has its own social sphere around individuals. So I'm really wondering in which way this is gonna affect. I think there's going to be more protocols in terms of cleaning spaces that are shared, showers, toilets, kitchens, etc., and so on. Going into the individual sphere, I heard that in some countries there might be the temperature testing, there might be the immunity passport. You are only allowed in the country if you have the immunity passport. And one of the things that I'm questioning more is in which way physical distancing, because I don't see social distancing. We are always connected. The social behaviors are still there, but digitally. But the physical distancing, I'm not sure how this will affect festival culture as a whole. For instance, this situation of people going in the sidewalk and they go to the other sidewalk, or this kind of afraid of being together with someone that they don't know. In one way, I can anticipate more regulations for cleaning spaces and shared spaces, and another way, I wonder how this will affect the social behavior. This is my main question marks, and the ones that we here in Boom, we question more. We are a festival that deals a lot with human presence, human contact, solidarity, human behavior, and in which way this will affect the culture, the boom culture as a whole. And then, of course, there's festival culture. So we are all navigating uncharted waters, which is fun, but at the same time we need to be very realistic, because there are some really psychological side effects on this situation in many people.
I was wondering the other day, actually, I was coming out of the supermarket and saw a woman with her little child, who I think was maybe 3. And so me and the little child both did the kind of social distancing, physical distancing move. And I was thinking, for those who are in their formative years, to be learning that kind of social behaviour at such a young age, I wonder whether that might have some impact in the longer term on the next generation. I mean, like I say, it's a very short space in time, but to have that as a natural instinct as a child is quite an interesting
Yes. Yeah, it's that fact. And for instance, there is one element of human culture since prehistoric times is the mourning of the dead ones, and ending a cycle, saying goodbye to someone that you love. And this, for me, is one of the most cruel aspects of this virus, is that in some places people are not allowed to go to a funeral, to go to a cremation, to say goodbye to their loved ones. And I do believe this has a really strong impact, psychological impact. And I mean, I cannot understand this kind of measures, because again, you see people in trains, but then you cannot be saying goodbye to your loved ones. So there are some sort of regulations here that I question its effectiveness, but are quite evident, the negative side effect on human psychology.
And do you think there's a responsibility on the individuals, or I should say the organisations maybe within various industries, to really present to the authorities how things should be brought back online, I suppose, offline, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, it is happening in Portugal. It is happening. The government is meeting everyone from different sectors and try to create guidelines for the future and for what can happen. For instance, one example in our sector, let's say the festivals and the cultural industry as a whole, it was the first one to stop in Portugal, because theaters, museums, galleries, festivals, concerts, everything stopped. And there was a lot of talks between government officials and promoters and cultural professionals to try to create a new framework. Some of them, they are achieved, for instance, in terms of the ticket reimbursement, the reschedule of the festivals. There are new legal frameworks that were created very fast. Others still have to be done. But this is like a great way, a great example how governments of participatory democracy in that sense, because nobody knows the conventional political frameworks to deal with some circumstances. They fail because they don't know they don't know how to do, because this is an uncharted water, and so they rely on the people that are out there in the field to do some bottom-up feedback, so that we can try to legislate based on this. Let's see, we are all surfing the wave as we speak.
Yeah, that's it. It's certainly one of the motivating factors that's got us to step out of reflecting a little bit into going, okay, right, we need to really kind of steer this in the right direction now, like while still taking time back to not just create action for the sake of action, but to make sure that we're not waiting until a new equally unsustainable structure solidifies. You know, while things are quite fluid, that's like the time to really try and be informed, be clear, and shape it going forwards.
Yeah, I agree.
And so what do you think for both the individual and the live music community as a whole is the most important lesson that we should take from the current situation?
Surely it might sound a cliche, but don't take things for granted, and don't go beyond your limits. I think this is the main for us, one of the main insights, because we were feeling that the music industry were like I said, like some of the fees that were being paid and some of the progress, the growth, the expansion, the going worldwide with some big brands, the equity funds going into the festivals and into the music industry. These kind of things, in a way, I hope make us reflect that the music industry is for the people, and should not follow some of the capitalist trends that, for instance, were followed with sports. I always try to compare both because there are many similarities. Before, like you guys in England, you have the football clubs that were belonging to the people, but then they started to be bought by big moguls of big businesses, big families, etc. And there is some things that you gain, but some things that you lost. And the social part of being affiliated to an entity or an organization or a club or a festival, it can be lost. So I hope with this pandemic, we keep aware that I don't say the other way is wrong or right. I just hope that this is a wake-up call for everyone, and especially festivals, for us to keep loyal to the basic principles that created festivals, that in many cases are to create an amazing experience with people, to create an amazing imaginary world, and to make things positive for everyone. And on individual level, the main aspect that I think we should really not forget is stay informed. Culture and knowledge are very important, especially at this time, so that we don't follow fake news, conspiracy theories, mainstream media or independent media, whatever. It's very important we have our opinion, and stay informed with credible sources is very, very important, especially at this time. The time that we need to have to think, to reflect, to be informed so that we take conscious decisions. And in the overall, I hope that festival culture don't turn into video gamification trend, which with the whole streaming and the virtual happenings and there are many examples out there that because there is no physical edition, some virtual or digital or online editions are being held. And this is a kind of thing that we hope is not going to be a trend, which is festival culture turned into a video game. It's very difficult, and it's very difficult to translate what we have in a festival context, especially when you have with your friends in the nature, in the music, the loudness, the smell, the conquers, the joys, the sadnesses, whatever you have, these crazy emotional roller coasters that we have in a festival, they are impossible to translate into the virtual video game festival, e-festival culture. I hope we don't go too much into that side. Again, I'm not criticizing the ones that are doing. We have lots of friends that they are doing it, and this is an amazing way, creative way to test new models and new approaches, but it should not replace the physical experience per se.
No, I suppose it's something that's appealing either to the fact that we're in a current situation where we can't come together, or where you're not able to get to a festival, or to a completely different group of people altogether, because it may be that there's people who really don't like the idea of getting out of their house would rather just stay and watch it online instead.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, and also for all of the work that you've been doing over the years, and also for bringing such a positive outlook to how we can take this really transitional period going forwards. I really hope to see the whole Boom project, in whatever forms it takes, really going further and further, and having more reach as well, because then we'll be seeing a brighter future, I think. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Claire, and thank you so much for the Greener Festival and all the projects and all the knowledge you put into the service of us as festival doers and thinkers. Hopefully we can pass this wave and celebrate soon again.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Thank you.